Well, guys, it's my pleasure to introduce Trudy Battaly. If you've been around Westchester, you know Trudy and Drew's work with Saw-Whet Owls and Fire Island Hawkwatch and Hook Mountain Hawkwatch, and a lot of very important citizen science, including at Harriman. So we're very pleased to have Trudy with us tonight to take us into hawk migration season, because this is the season. So thanks for being here, Trudy.
Okay, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to talk about hawks. I just love hawks. And I say observe, enjoy, and count. All right, so we can all observe the hawks. And in September, the star of the hawk migration is broadwings, of course. And they're a special favorite of mine. And we would like to take a look at them and get out to observe them, but appreciate them and live with them, because when we see broadwings coming through the area, the question is, will they be here this year? Will they not be here this year? Last year was a slow year. The year before was the second highest year of all time for the Northeast. And yet last year was the second lowest year. So we went from a very high to a very low. And most years are not at those extremes, but somewhere in the middle. So you can see this is a stream of broadwings at the top of the kettle and leaving. And the excitement here, I have turned the audio off so that you can hear me speak, but this is what a kettle looks like when you look up look directly up overhead at Hook Mountain. And this one was quite some time ago, back in 2000, maybe 11, when we had over 14,000 broadwings at Hook Mountain from 7:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon. And 14,000 broadwings. It was just extraordinary. So we can get broadwings in those huge numbers, or we can get on days when we don't have quite as many birds around, all right, a little slower days on a hawk watch, we can look at these birds and appreciate each individual and what it is doing, and just watch this red tail. This is our local red tail flying around near probably a sibling, but whoa, look at that. All right, so you have these extremes in hawk watching. You have days that are exciting with huge numbers, and other days that are exciting with individual small numbers, but individuals and just what they're doing, right? And there's always something that you can enjoy at a hawk watch and get excited about. So this bird, I was just taking the video and they went upside down, all right? Swung around like that. That's extraordinary to me, all right? And why do we do it? We all love it, all right? And there are, we would not really know all that much about hawk watching and about the hawks themselves and about their migration unless we have people out there to watch them, observe them, count them, appreciate them. And all of those individual hawk watchers, whether they're counters of the day, whether they are people who are finding hawks in the sky and helping us find them, helping us identify them, they are all contributing to very important raptor conservation so that we can understand what's going on with raptors, and understand what's actually impacting them, what kind of trends they have, what their needs are, and that type of thing. So we're going to take a little bit of a look at how hawk watching started in the Northeast, at least in our time. I'm sure that there were people and Indians who lived in this region who watched hawks, all right? So I'm sure we're not alone in the world as people who watch hawks. But in 1971, in the Northeast, the New England Hawk Watch was formed, and they formed by starting off with 2 weekends. One weekend in September, the 18th and 19th of September in 1971, and then a weekend in October, the 23rd and 24th, all right? And this is what some of the things that they were looking at. This is the report that was generated from that particular weekend. It's a report by the Fall Hawk Migration, 1971, by Don Hopkins and Gerald Mercereau. And they set up all of these sites. Had never been done before. Well, I mean, there was hawk watching already down at Hawk Mountain, but in the Northeast, it hadn't been done before. Except I think Jerry was a bander, actually. And so they decided that they were going to ask, they did some radar, all right? They got somebody to set up radar in the area, and they asked people to cover all of those sites, and these were their results, all right? September 18th, Saturday, they counted a total of 3,836 birds for all of those sites. And then on the 19th, they counted over 20,000, 24,000. They discovered there are hawks flying over, and they're flying at different locations. So we have the data that shows where they were, all right, at different locations, and how many there were total. And that's how it all started. And they started looking at things like directions of flight. All right. And so we have, these are different locations. And so they were looking at which way the hawks were flying at all of these different locations. And some of these are hypothetical. They were speculating that. And so anyway, that was how it began. That was where the way it all began, with having multiple hawkwatch sites throughout the Northeast. All right. The year following that, they started thinking, okay, we have these people. They generally, what they did was they organized Audubon groups and got volunteers from the Audubon groups to go and stand on these mountaintops all over those locations. All right. They did the same thing the next year, this time on September 16th and 17th and October 28th and 29th. And so this is what we get from that. Let's go. All right. So we're starting to look, that's the region they're looking at. And they're looking now at directions of flight because they got a little information from that first year. All right. And they decided, okay, we have these people, and these people now need some guidance as to how to identify these birds. So this little sketch was done by Don Hopkins, and he was not an artist. All right. So he said, okay, the Buteos have this general, very broad wing shape, and we have falcons that have kind of narrow pointed wings, and we have these accipiters. All right. And so he started providing information for people to help them to identify the hawks. And notice we have osprey, and we also have turkey vulture at that time, way back in 1971. I don't see a harrier here, so I was missing harrier when I looked at that. But I think that that's really an important beginning because we have now some kind of guidance for people as to what they should be looking for. All right. So then the next thing we had was in 1974, the Hawk Migration Association of North America was formed. That's Humana, Hawk Migration Association of North America. Last year, they changed their name because they now have hawk watches in Central America and places that are not in North America. So they're now Hawk Migration Association, period. Okay. In that same year, 1974, Bill Welch piloted a motor glider. And maybe Drew can explain a little bit about the motor glider, but basically, I've been told by Drew that he actually flew in a regular plane, but it was too noisy and it kept chasing the hawks away. So he moved to a motor glider where he could glide for 4 periods of time alongside the hawks up in the sky. All right. And he was in contact with the people at different hawk watches and communicate with them. And they did a number of different things. Some of the things included those flight lines. And one of the things was how far away can you see a hawk? So he helped them identify distances a little bit. And so that was a really concerted effort when you think about it, flying up there with the hawks. All right. And this was the cover for the book that they published. The book wasn't published until later. But so let's see if we can get up to here. So you can see in this plane, I don't know how I'm going to get over there. I can't get over there. There we go. All right. So it was a two-seater. Bill Welch and his wife went up in the plane, and so they sought out the Broadwings and followed them, turned off their engines and followed along with them to see how fast they were going. Just extraordinary things that they were doing at that point. It always fascinated me to think that I could be flying alongside a Broadwing, all right? But I just kind of enjoyed watching them anyway. So that was, and so that book was published in 1987. So it wasn't published immediately. So it was another 10 years or so. The first field guide was published in 1975. And this was silhouette field guide with some basic identification, key features. All right. And so these field guides, practically, this one actually is up on the Northeast Hawkwatch website. I guess I must have gotten a copy from somebody to get this one. They're a little bit crossed off. Whoop. So now this in 72, they repeated everything. And we did that one. Okay. Oh, what happened? I went backwards. There I go. I'm sorry about that. So we have the other field guide, which was the second field guide. And this was the a little bit, no, that's the same one. I'm sorry about that. I messed up my pages and I got my field guides mixed up. So what we have now is a little bit different. We now have a publication that's quite different from those early papers, and it's the Northeast Hawkwatch Hawk Migration Studies, and this is the centerfold. And what I did was I put this in here just to show you that this data goes all the way back to 1980. So for each one of these species, we're showing what data was collected from all of those years, from all of the Hawkwatch sites all over the Northeast. All right. So let's see, I can zoom in on this a little bit. And so we have, you can see it's from 1980, black vultures are increasing, turkey vultures are increasing. Osprey declined a little bit more, but they're staying steady. All right, even though we seem to have so many more of them along the coast right now, there are fewer of them than we used to. And bald eagles, of course, this very, very strong, dramatic increase for the bald eagles. Harriers are dropping, but kind of holding their own in the last 5 years or so up here. In fact, they just came off the watch list. They were any bird that has a record low gets put on the Northeast Hawkwatch watch list. So it was put on the watch list back here, and it was taken off because it had increased substantially in a few years. So Sharpies are on the watch list. Sharpies is our most endangered hawk right now in terms of it. It has been, I think it's something like the last 10 years, it's had a record low a number of times. And it actually did, this was, I think I grabbed this from the 2023 journal. So it dropped last year, and then we had a record low in the Northeast for Sharpies last year. Cooper's hawks rose for a while, and then they're kind of getting messy and staying more or less level. Goshawk is declining. All right. This is all over the Northeast, including all of the watches near us. Red-shouldered hawks are increasing. And of course, we have Quaker Ridge over there that counts many, the most in the Northeast. Broadwings have been declining, and we had a couple of years when they were good. And of course, last year's is missing from here because this was 2023. Red tails are declining, but they're not declining necessarily. Remember, these are migration numbers, only migration numbers. So they're not necessarily declining in population, but they are declining in migration. There are fewer of them that are migrating. Rough-legged hawk, kind of a little bit messy in the last couple of years. That's an eruptive species, hard to tell, isn't always migrating through our region. Golden eagle is kind of more or less hanging out. It's more or less level. Kestrels have declined. It's kind of got around to holding their own because they're a little higher than this really low piece in here. But they didn't do too well last year, but then not very many birds did very well last year. And then the Merlins dropped. Well, first they rose and then dropped and then have been kind of holding their own. And the Peregrines did a similar thing. They rose, but a little bit later, and a continual rise up until the 2010s. And now they're dropping a little bit. But some of that may also be to overwintering. We're getting more of them overwintering. So we found out a little bit here about history, but if you want to go hawk watching, where do you go? All right. So we get all excited about this. Where are we going to go? So this was 1973. All right. And you can see that there were 47 different sites that year, including Pound Ridge. All right. And 46 is Mount Aspeton, which is pretty close to Chestnut Ridge right now. 45 is Greenwich Audubon, so that's Quaker Ridge. 44 is Laurel Reservoir, all right? And 42 is Lighthouse Point, that's still there. So a lot of these sites are different now from what we actually have, all right? And what we have are here. So these were the 42 sites, or we have usually from 40 to 45 sites in any given year that are functioning and counting hawks, all right? It varies over the years now a little bit. Some sites are primarily manned by just one person, and so when the person retires or is no longer living there, then we lose the site. So we have, for instance, lost the one down in Jersey here. What is I've forgotten the name of it. Sandy Hook. We've lost Sandy Hook. That's not around anymore. That actually was with a hurricane that knocked that out. So there are some sites and Head of the Meadow is a little different. We used to have Pilgrim Heights on the other side. So we have a number of different sites now over the Northeast. But of course, we are really, really lucky because we have so many sites in our vicinity that we can go to that are official sites where people are there actually counting the hawks and submitting the data to Hawk Count, where everybody can see it. All right. So we're very, very fortunate to have so many of them. So you have a choice, depending upon where you live, depending upon what you want to see that day, depending upon whether or not you would like to go visit to the beach, for instance. Now, I'm going to try and see if I can write on this without losing it. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to start at the low end over here with Fire Island. So Fire Island is over here. So if you like watching hawks at the beach, you can go down to Fire Island. Fort Tilden is over here, right down there, Fort Tilden. I'm not writing on my screen very well tonight. There we go. And of course, I love Fire Island. It's one of my special places. And one of my other special places is way up here, Hook Mountain. So that's Hook Mountain. Then we have Lenoir. Lenoir is probably about here somewhere. All right, so that's Lenoir in Yonkers. Across the way, we have State Line, just slightly north of it, but across the way, across the Hudson River, that's State Line. We've got Quaker Ridge at Greenwich Point over here. We have Chestnut Ridge along 684 up here, Chestnut Ridge. We've got Bear Mountain up in here, up near the bridge up there. Oops. That's Bear Mountain. We have, what else? What am I missing? We have, over here, there's Mount Peter. Over by West Haven and New Haven over here, we have Lighthouse Point. And then somewhere in here, I'm not exactly sure where, there's Purple Chickadee now. Purple Chickadee. They actually had a crested caracara last year. And there are a number of other sites around Jersey. If anybody is interested in going to Jersey, there's a Scotts Mountain at the west end someplace. And then there's just 2 or 3 other sites. Montclair is in there. So there are a few other sites in there that, so if anybody is interested in any one of those sites, whoops, okay. We can take a closer look. Anybody want to look at Google Maps because there's some site that you'd like to see? We could go into Google Maps and take a look if anyone is interested.
Can you zoom into Hook?
I could. Okay. So Hook Mountain, here's the Tappan Zee Bridge, and of course Tarrytown here. Hook Mountain is just north of the Tappan Zee Bridge. All right, so we would go from here in I'm in Westchester. I go across the bridge, and then it's not the first exit, but it's the second exit. So you're going to want to take the exit that takes you in this road right here, and then on up 9W, and you pass the school on the left, and Hook Mountain is right up here on the top of this hill up in here. All right. There is a place along the road in here that has some openings that you can park right where the power lines cross the road. You park nearby there and then travel up the hill. This is probably the trail right here. That's one way to get in. The other way is to go down, continue up 9W and make a right turn into Rockland Lake State Park. Actually, I don't think you can go in there. Here it is down here. And then drive on back and come back to the golf course. This is Rockland Lake Golf Course. And so you park in the golf course, and then there's a flagpole right here. And right on the little hill next to the flagpole is the trail that goes up from that direction. And you'd be coming up the hill, probably this is probably, there's a little pond in there too. Probably come up the hill up to here, and you hit the blue trail and make a right turn and go over to Hook Mountain. Okay, so that's how to get to Hook Mountain. There was a question about Chestnut Ridge.
Yes.
Chestnut Ridge. Okay, so you're over. Did you see where I went? So we're still inside of New York State, not too far from Quaker Ridge. Quaker Ridge is right in here in the northeast corner here. I'm sorry, the northwest corner here of Connecticut. Chestnut Ridge, maybe someone else even can. It's at Westmore. It's at this sanctuary. I think it's right in here.
Yep. Butler.
Right, Butler Sanctuary. And you park in there and then hike up the trail, and it brings you to the platform, and it looks out. So is there any other questions? Any other places? So we're really very fortunate to have so many around. And the truth is that what they learned back in those years, 1971, 72, 73, they found hawks in many different places. And they came to the realization that they were everywhere. These hawks are everywhere. And I happen to also be the editor of the Northeast Hawk Watch report, and I finished this year's report a little bit late. But what I did was I looked at the differences in the flight patterns for comparing those 2 years. The 2023 was the super good year when we had so many hawks. Quaker Ridge broke all kinds of records, and well, maybe not the biggest record for the whole Northeast and all of the years since then, but certainly a record for recent times. And everybody, even Hook had good birds that year. Everybody had good birds, and the flight pattern actually in that really good year came across the Northeast at the lower end, came through in this direction. All right. In the year before, 2023, we had a very light year with birds. The second lowest broadwing count. I'm sorry, no, that's the reverse. This is 2024. This was last year. We had our lowest We had a record low for total hawks in the Northeast last year, outstandingly low. And so there was a huge contrast in the number of birds that we had between 23 and 24. And I called it the about face year because we went from being almost the best year we've ever had to almost to the worst year, total hawks. They're not quite the worst year for broadwings, but the flight path last year for the broadwings was much higher. It came up, the big place was up in Putney Mountain, which is up in here on the southeast section, right up and about here is where Putney is, and they had over 16,000 broadwings, but practically no one else had big numbers like that. So it was a totally different flight path. When we had lots of birds, the birds came through more southerly. When we had fewer birds, they came through in a more northerly path. I suspect that has something to do with the winds, and I also this year took a look at the jet stream, and we can look at some of those images, some of the video from that, if we have time. So, why do we watch? Why do we watch them? Yeah, Anne recognizes this. She sent this to me. She took this video last Thursday. Okay, so she got a red-tailed hawk just diving on down. That red-tail probably saw a squirrel or maybe a chipmunk or something, and was looking for lunch or something. And so, why do we watch hawks? It's fun. It's fun to watch these animals, and it's an amazing sense of wonder. It's amazing to me how these birds can go from the Northeast of the United States of America and end up spending their winters down in South America. It's just a phenomenal wonder. And we know that the little birds do it all the time. So you're already familiar with that. But yeah, I think that wonder and being in the world with those birds as they're flying over and as they're migrating is something that it just makes it so worthwhile for me, because I'm participating in that. I'm sharing my space and time. I'm sharing it with the hawks. And of course, when we count the birds and we keep track of what we see, we can get those charts and find out, hey, we're losing some Sharpies, but look at, we're doing really well with bald eagles, right? And of course, you know that a little bit from your experience, but counting the birds and keeping track of that count, the count that you did, if there's any of you out there who were hawk watching and you took a count 10 years ago someplace, that still matters now. It's part of our data collection. It's part of our history. And it's really important that we do that. The conservation of raptors is important in that respect. So, and of course, why? How do they interact? And these are two bald eagles on Hook Mountain. This was not this year, but last year. Our first day up, I think, Drew and I, on August 29th. And they're just playing. They're just two bald eagles playing in the sky. You know, it's just a fantastic thing to see, to watch, to enjoy. And in a sense, you're sharing that with them. They're not there because to pleasure, you know, to bring you pleasure or wonder. They're there to do their own thing. But we get to share that. And that's just a phenomenon that I think is so worthwhile. Look at that. They just don't give up. And so a little bit of out of focus because the camera didn't catch up with the back and forth a little bit, but here we go. They just don't stop. It's just amazing. Now, bald eagle back in the 1970s, we didn't see any. If we saw 2 or 3 a year, we were stunned, all right? And now we see this. Look at that one shot right there. Right there. Look at the neck of that bird. He looks like it has a turtleneck to me, that long neck. And when you see a golden eagle, it never has that long neck like that. So to me, that's one of the outstanding characteristics for the bald eagle. So watching them interact, not only within their own species, but interspecies. I didn't even think about it, but I have a video of a, a, uh, a peregrine attacking a bald eagle at State Line one time years ago. I'm sorry, I didn't read the message. I didn't see what it said.
She was asking about the percentage of hawks that overwinter here.
Ah, that's a tough one because some of many species do, but a lot of osprey, I'm sorry, a lot of birds don't. Um, yes, a huge fish in its talons. Yeah, that's a common sight along the shorelines. So yes, that's neat. So why? All right. What I've been saying is that I've decided that if you get to see a hawk and you look them in the eye and you exchange eye glances. Now, this this one, this shoulder, I'm sorry, the harrier on the left uh, did get to look at me, although you can't really see how he's looking right at me with eye contact at this point. This was from the red tail was from last Friday, actually. And I took this picture just before, and in fact, Avril, I know you're out there. She took a picture of this bird too. And near the end of its skyhooking, they skyhook, what I call skyhook, and they just hang up there and hover while they're hunting so that they try and stay in one place. So this guy was turned around and he was hovering and he just turned around with the head and looked right at us. All right. So the red tail. So I call that a hawk handshake. If you're close enough and you can look at the hawk and see him and you're sharing that space, to me, that's a hawk handshake. And if that bird is migrating, as the harrier was, this red tail wasn't migrating, but if that bird is migrating, I feel as if, hey, he saw me on his way south, or she saw me on her way south, and that's something special. I became part of that bird's migration, all right? And that bird is certainly part of my life when I get to see that handshake. Okay. Anne had mentioned when she asked me to do this that she wanted to think about beginners, some newbies. So how do you begin? You pick a site, you grab your binoculars, and you take a hike. Now I'm saying take a hike because Hook Mountain is a hike. You have to hike up the mountain to get there. There are many other places that aren't and that are easy to get to drive to. Greenwich Audubon is one of them with Quaker Ridge. The State Line is one of them. Lenoir, Bear Mountain. You can drive up to those and practically get out of your car and be at the watch site. But nevertheless, you still need to pick the site and grab your binoculars. All right. You can start with the silhouette guide, and this is the current guide. All right, silhouette guide, and it's a good place to start. It's not the only place to go, but it's a good place to start. So that's the field guide. That's a silhouette guide. Then Drew and I did this last year. We did a program for Rockland Audubon, and I put together a single sheet that has a whole bunch of things on it. But what this does is what species it is, what group it's in, what kind of flight behavior it has, whether it soars, glides, flaps, or hovers. Then a head-on view. And I love these head-on views. These came from Hawks in Flight by Pete Dunn, David Sibley, and Clay Sutton. I just love those head-on views. Take a look at the harrier. Where is the harrier on here? Here it is. It goes up first and then out flat, as opposed to the dihedral of a turkey vulture or something. All right. So I included that, and then visible in flight, meaning we were asked to help them identify birds in the field, not from a book, right? So what do you see when you see a bird at a distance? All right. So the black vulture has a short tail. Its appearance is bat-like. It has rudders. But when you get up close, it has white tips on the wings. So that's what these are all about. Visible, in flight at a distance, and then close up. All right. And then we have feet, 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. So we have distance or length along the bottom. And each one of these vertical bars is an approximation for the wingspan. All right. So we try to include everything in here so that you could carry one sheet with you and use it in the field. And so that may be helpful for some of you. Okay, now that's that one. Membership in Northeast Hawkwatch is only $10. You get a report, an annual report that's comprehensive. It's over 40 pages. It includes up-to-date stuff all about the birds that you've been counting. So it really is, it's only $10 a year. So it's one of the best bargains going around. Cornell has a Raptor ID. Oh, wait a minute. This one. This one, Raptor, this one I like. This is my app on my cell phone. So if the Hawkwatch International has an app for your cell phone that's, I think, superb because it has videos. And so much of what we see in the field is motion. The bird is moving. The bird is flying at you in migration, all right? So those videos in this app are very, very helpful. I find them, and you can carry it around with you. You can look at them anytime you want. And during the video, it gives you some hints about it. All right, not yet. Then the Cornell has a course for Raptor ID. That's a very nice, and it's rather comprehensive. It covers the whole United States. It does cost more money than the other things, but it's really quite good. All right. So that might be something if you're really into it. And then, of course, let's not forget the books. But I didn't want to do a whole page on books, but my favorite one is Hawks in Flight. And partially because of the descriptions that they have, but also because of those views, the head-on views in that book. So I'm going to put in a plug for Hook Mountain with just a couple of slides, but I know I'm running out of time here. But Hook Mountain is only 9,000 hawks away from 600,000 all-time hawks. And this is John Phillips up there. He's our Tuesday counter. Ann is our Thursday counter. Drew and I do Fridays. You're welcome to come. I'd be happy to see anybody on a Friday up there. But all of our data comes from people. It's the people that count. It's the people who do the counting and submit the data that count. You count, all right? It's the people. And so I urge everybody to help participate. And this is what Hook looks like.
Way up there on the top is Bear Mountain.
Way up there.
And we've got Rockland Lake, Hudson River, Croton Point.
That's all you see of Croton Point, like an island.
Mills Hill. And across the river. And Tarrytown.
You can see that we have quite an expansive view. The bridge is about 3 miles away from us, even though it looks closer.
And then behind us, high school. Whoop, and there's Drew.
That little field area is an area that we've had short-eared owls in. And so we check that area every time that we go up there, especially in October. So if anybody wants to reach me, you can reach me at merlin@pipeline.com. We have a website at battaly.com/hook, and come and join us.